I recently had a request to film or to show a mid-row yarn join, and whilst I have tried to avoid joining yarns in the middle of a row, sometimes it happens, and in particular in Intarsia, here I've done this join or this change of yarn in two different colours just to demonstrate the difference between the two. And so I was partway along this blue row, ran out of yarn and changed to the next piece of yarn. So this doesn't have to be a colour change. And the way I would treat this join would be to link the yarns together at the back of the work. So let's look at the structure. This is one single happy and contented knit stitch. And you'll never see a knit stitch just on its own because that would just be a piece of yarn. But in the middle of our knitting, if you look at it, and what you see as little V's on the front of a piece of stocking stitch, those are the sides of the face of a happy stitch. And the head of the stitch gets pushed to the back to become a purl bump, and they really like to hold hands with the stitch on either side, and these become the purl bumps at the lower edge of that row. But the important thing is the stitch is balanced. It's pulled equally in both directions. In the case of a yarn join, here my blue yarn's come along and it's finished, and we've started with a new yarn. So both of these stitches are out of balance. They're not being pulled in the correct direction. And the way that I like to sort out this situation is to have them link arms with one another. They don't know that they're not connected in the normal way, but it gives both of the stitches the proper pull and balances both stitches. So going back to our sample, we're going to now balance the red tail around the blue tail. So we're having the stitches link arms. And for this, I would use a slightly sharper needle, not a terribly blunt one. I can, if I wish, weave this in, just splitting the plies of the matching colour yarn. Pull that through. And I haven't tensioned this yet exactly, but if you're doing this, I like to stretch it back and put enough slack in the join that it's not going to cause a pucker. And then I will do the same with the purple in the other direction. But in general, rather than actually trying to darn on the horizontal, I prefer to darn on the diagonal. So getting the pull correct and then just taking a little bit of the plies on the diagonal direction. So if this was a contrast colour situation, I would be more likely to take it on the horizontal. About 4 or 5 intersections, depends on the slipperiness of your yarn. And again, you want to sort of pull that so it's relaxed. And I'm going to take this one out because I'm not so keen on a horizontal join. And now I'm going to darn this one off in that direction. Splitting the plies, grazing along the inside. And darning on the diagonal is actually remarkably invisible. So I want to tension the link there, then putting my finger on the link, make sure there's enough elasticity in both those tails. Then check the front of the work and it should be invisible because the tension is correct. Both the stitches are balanced, and you'll notice with the diagonal darn, even in the contrasting colour, you're not seeing any colour show through. It really works very well. And then to complete this, I would snip these tails, leaving about 1/3 of an inch sticking out, and then I would fluff up the ends, and that way you never need to worry about this join again. Sometimes it's tempting to say, well, I'll take this blue tail on with me and I'll knit both the blue tail and the orange tail off in this direction, which is fine for this stitch. It cheers it up no end, but this one will always look slightly lopsided because it's not getting the correct equal and opposite pull.